The Miami Book Fair is here. Find out more and meet Shelley Wong. Queer News Tonight would love you to know that Miami Book Fair's annual book fair and literary festival is back. The festival runs November 13th through 20th and will be attended by reputed authors from across the world, talking books and discussing new works. We at Happening Out Network invite you all to be a part of it. Hit downtown Miami to listen and participate in conversations with TV's Billy Porter, filmmaker John Waters, and playwright and actor Harvey Fierstein. Enjoy the 350 writers and poets participating in the 39th Miami Book Fair, including Jack Parlett talking about Fire Island, James Kirchick discussing the hidden history of gay Washington, and Rasheed Newson shares his personal and political awakening of a young gay black man in the 1980s New York City. We insist you join the conversation at Miami Book Fair Street Fair weekend on November 19th and 20th. And while you do that, do not forget to shake a leg in the music event on the off-the-shelf stage. More details are available at miamibookfair.com. In anticipation of the fair, Queer News Tonight anchor Al Ferguson recently sat down with award-winning poet Shelley Wong, who will be sharing her poems at a special book fair event that will also include me, Greg Shapiro.
Well, let's talk everything Miami Book Fair. Shelley Wong's debut poetry collection, As She Appears, came out earlier this year from Yes Yes Books and has been longlisted for the 2022 National Book Award. She lives in San Francisco. As She Appears foregrounds queer women of color in their being and becoming. Following the end of a relationship that was marked by silence, a woman crosses over and embodies the expanse of desire and self-love. Other speakers transform the natural world and themselves using art and beauty as a means of sanctuary and subversion. With both praise and precision, Wong considers how women inhabit and remake their environment. The ecstatic joys of pride dances and a late-night Chinatown meal, conversations with Frida Kahlo, trees that burst into glamour, and layers of memory permeate the poems in this book as they travel through suburban California, perfumed fashion runways to a Fire Island summer. Wong writes in the space where so many do not appear as an invitation for queer women of color to arrive in love exactly as they were meant to be. Shelley Wong, welcome to Queer News Tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're very excited to have you. It allows me to help explore poetry and queer poetry, which we don't often talk about, and we should talk more about it. So congratulations, first off, on coming to the Miami Book Fair. I understand this is going to be your first participation in Miami Book Fair.
Yes, and it's the culmination of my year-long tour, so it's going to be a big celebration, and I'm so excited.
Yeah. The Miami Book Fair, as our viewers know, is the largest of its kind in the United States, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 authors and writers are going to be present. A very rich and diverse program. And of course, Queer News Tonight and Happening Out Television Network and Hotspots Magazine are happy to sponsor and participate because it has the richest LGBT content stream of any book fair in the entire world. And we're thrilled about that. And of course, Shelley Wong participates in it. So first off, let's get right to it. Debut poetry collection. You've written many individual published pieces, but this is your first poetry collection, As She Appears. Tell us about that process and about poetry for women for color, queer women of color. Tell us about the process of what went into the creation of this work.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. So I'm a 42-year-old debut poet. So the book itself took a decade to write, but really I see The writing reflects the expanse of my entire life. I touch on every decade of my life. I always wanted to be a writer since I was a very avid reader as a child. But the writing, I would say, really began in the aftermath of a long-term queer relationship, which led to very soon thereafter me entering graduate school in my early 30s. And in that 3-year program at Ohio State, I developed the seeds for what would become this collection of poems. And some books, they have like a single focus or a theme or a set of imagery or a single place that they devote the book to. But mine really travels through place, through time. And I was writing the poems I wanted to have as a younger person. I was writing the poems speaking to my past relationship because I wasn't fully out during the relationship. So I think I wanted to process and honor that long-term relationship which began in youth in order to show and share and explore a young relationship between two young queer women of color, in this case Asian women. Since I didn't have that literature when I was young, I didn't have those poems, really as an offering to myself and to younger women, younger people of color, to show a little bit of that struggle, but also that joy and searching after the relationship in order to show queer women of color in their playfulness and joy, but also in solitude and consideration in the world, in nature, as a collective sort of joy and sisterhood.
I'm curious, as she appears, you must be thrilled, your first debut collection, and you're nominated for the National Book Award. November 16 in New York City, the winner of the National Book Award is going to be announced, and you're in contention for that. And then you come to the Miami Book Fair fresh from that on November 19, and you're going to participate with a bevy of writers, poets, authors that were nominated for the National Book Award. There are 50 nominees, and 31 of you are going to be represented at the Miami Book Fair. That is just breathtakingly astounding of how much talent is going to be in the room at one time. The announcement of your debut writing achievement being nominated for National Book Award, what was your reaction when you heard that news?
I was absolutely stunned. So it's a little bit of a two-part process. So in late September, they announced the 10 long list authors per category, and then in October, the 5 finalists. So I was longlisted, so I didn't make the finalist cut, but I'm extremely happy and honored to be longlisted, as you say, for a debut, which is an incredible, rare, just I'm still processing the honor to be among authors of, extreme longevity and heroes of mine is an absolute thrill. It's also very special that I'm on a small press, Yes Yes Books, and this is their first nomination. However, they have a long history of supporting queer poets of color who have gone on to receive National Book Award honors, and so I want to give a shout out to them. It's also very special that of the 10 long-listed poets, the 3 that are debut poets were all women of color, and the other 2 women are mothers, which I think should be highlighted and celebrated, since I think that women of color, queer women of color, mothers face more barriers to having a creative practice, having the time and access for support. So being in that community feels very special. And also to be with John Keane, who is one of those elder heroes who won the Lambda Award for the best gay poetry. I'm especially rooting for him.
Yes, very nice. You know, at Happening on Television Network, Hotspots Magazine, Queer News Tonight, we constantly talk about how representation matters. And there can be no greater symbol of the need to focus on representation in our community of lesbians, our women of color, queer identifying people of color, black, brown, trans community. So you represent multiple boxes in that. When you come to the Miami Book Fair and 31 of the 50 of you are in the same place at the same time, as we celebrate at the Miami Book Fair, this representation, because this is a first time experience for you, do you have any intrepidation that that you're worthy to be in the room, that you're one of these people? Do you have any concerns about that at all, or you're just, I'm here?
Well, I think I have, it's still hitting me, or I'm still adjusting to being part of the National Book Award family, as they say. At the beginning of my tour, at first it was like, oh, what if no one shows up? And now it's like, oh, what if a lot of people show up? So it's definitely a different set of nerves. But poetry it is a smaller audience compared to prose. So I really welcome that engagement, the opportunity to share poetry and have a space for such a large audience to listen, to really complete the circle as a writer, to offer my poems to them is such a huge gift and celebration. So I'm more excited than nervous at this point.
Okay, well, that's lovely to hear. Then after this gigantic event of the National Book Award, the 31 of the 50, in the same room at the same time, you're going to do a panel at Miami Book Fair called Kindred Poets. And you're going to do poetry reading on November 19th, and you're going to participate. One of the poets that you're going to participate with is Greg Shapiro. And Greg Shapiro is a regular anchor at Queer News Tonight with me and at It's Happening Out. And I'm curious, as we come back to you, Shelley, in terms of that image, one other thing I want to show, I want to be sure and respect his latest book. He's written 8 poetry books. His Fear of Muses, which is what he is going to be reading from. And if we could come back, as we look at you, I was here at this set table when Miami Book Fair made announcements of participants, and Greg Shapiro, in the news of him participating in this panel along with you, got tearful and emotional that he could participate with other poets like Shelley Wong, and how excited he was to represent the queer community and the LGBTQ community at the Miami Book Fair. Now he's here in South Florida, and the recognition of the importance of this event for poets is really crystal clear to him. I'm just curious, do you in reading your poetry in this panel for Kindred Poets, do you get nervous? Other poets that are with you, is it something that it gives you some angst, or you just go, no, I got this?
Well, it's so wonderful to hear that Greg is able to have this opportunity to share his work at the Miami Book Fair. Yes, that will be with Nicole Tallman and Julie Marie Wade, so I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, I would say since my work is as academic staff for a university, which isn't quite as poetic. So yeah, I think I'm always more excited more than anything just to meet with poets, whether it's poets I know or poets I don't know, just to be able to gather and share and listen to each other and be inspired and surprised. I feel like it's all positive vibes, and we're here together, and look at all these wonderful people who are here to hear and talk poetry. So it feels very, very precious.
Yes. I think it's interesting. The last thing I wanted to ask you about in terms of you focusing on your debut poetry collection, As She Appears, is your home in San Francisco. San Francisco, for every gay person since Stonewall, we followed the Village People's advice, and we went west. And where we went to was San Francisco. San Francisco is really a heart of capital for LGBTQ. We're sitting in South Florida, and most people know, we always make the joke, we're in one of the largest LGBTQ communities in the world here in South Florida, and we always joke in our broadcast that we're broadcasting from the gayest place on planet Earth. I'm curious about South Florida now getting this opportunity to talk, gay guy being able to talk to a queer identifying woman in San Francisco. Does San Francisco have a footprint on you in terms of how you view the world, how you view your queerness, how you represent it in your poetry? Is the city and the heart of the city for LGBTQ influential on you, or it doesn't have much effect for you?
That's a good question. It's actually the fourth time since I lived in the Bay Area, so I keep moving here in a way. But I did spend my formative undergrad years at Berkeley, so I do feel like that was my beginning as a young queer woman. And I think definitely nature has a strong presence in my work. But I also think, since I grew up in Southern California, there's kind of this pop culture love that is always part of my work. And then I spent my 20s in New York City, where my former partner at the time, worked for Heritage of Pride, the original Pride organization in Greenwich Village. And so that community was also very much a part of me, coming into my identity and strength and power. So I feel like there are many places that have imprinted themselves on me. But as for the Bay having its own particular identity, I think maybe there is this kind of like creative freedom, but also not feeling kind of the hustle bustle pressures maybe of New York or the glamour of Southern California. So maybe kind of like an ease or patience or quietness maybe.
You know, it's very interesting to me, Shelley, because having not been here in South Florida for a long, long time, I can't wait to talk with you on your experience, especially for queer community and LGBT in South Florida. Very much like San Francisco, this is a very relaxed community, not in the hustle and bustle way of New York, and not in terms of the glamour, maybe even pretentious way of Southern California. So you are getting ready to have all kinds of intersection that I think you're going to love. You're going to be direct from the National Book Awards that are going to take place November 16th. This gigantic panel of 31 of the 50 recipients on November 19th at the most important book event, writing event in America, the Miami Book Fair, and participating in the most dynamic LGBTQ book track in the entire world. So we're going to welcome you and celebrate you into the South Florida community for this major event. One last opportunity as she appears. People that are interested in getting your book, where would I know where you can get it, but where would you recommend first? And where's the easiest, best place of where you would like people to learn more about you and get your book?
Yes. Well, I always encourage folks to buy the book through their favorite local independent bookstore. It's also available directly from the press, yesyesbooks.com. Mm-hmm. And then for more information about me, you can look me up online at shelley-wong.com.
Okay, excellent. And a little secret for everyone, it's something that I constantly hear, and it's why I always ask the question this way. Your independent bookseller is the best place to buy your book because you're supporting free press and free thought through your independence of your bookstores and your online distributors. If you can't find one or you don't have access, Barnes & Nobles can also help you, and Amazon can also help you. Shelley Wong, we can't wait to welcome you to South Florida. Congratulations again on your recognition for the National Book Award, and we can't wait for you to join us here in South Florida at the most prestigious book event in America, the Miami Book Fair, and we can't wait to meet you.
Wonderful. I look forward to it, Al. Thank you so much.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.